All right. Cool. Hi. Welcome. I'm Amanda, and I'm at Battleground Games and Hobbies in Abington, Massachusetts. Battleground is a gaming and hobby store in the Boston area. We have 3 stores, one in Abington, one in Norton, which is down south of here, one up north of Boston in Saugus. And the Abington store has a lovely little loft where I can stream from. I don't work here. I feel the need to say that, even though I am wearing a Battleground sweatshirt and I do stream quite a bit from the store. It's just for fun, because I want to, and I can. So I'm going to be continuing painting Highlander figures. I am doing painting for the River Horse Highlander game. So this is River Horse's Highlander board game. It is quite good. I'm a big fan of Highlander. Love Highlander. The one movie, the show. Tab with my chat just crashed, but that's fine. I'm going to bring it up on my computer. Anyhow, but yeah. Big Highlander fan. Love Highlander. And love the show. Love the one and only movie. Loved the Atari Jaguar video game with Quentin MacLeod. I haven't watched the anime. There was like an anime movie adaptation thing. I have seen some of the old cartoon. I haven't watched the anime. I think one of my friends did. I'll have to ask him if it was worth. It was my sort of garbage. But regardless, when River Horse announced the Kickstarter for this game, I was a little nervous because games based on licensed properties can be kind of dicey. And I don't mean dicey in that they involve dice, though this one does. I mean dicey in that it can be hard. It can be hard to marry gameplay and flavor of a source material. And this is unfortunately shown with some other games. But then I've played a couple recently that were really good. WizKids' Expanse board game is actually really good. It doesn't look like the materials in it. It's not like they have little like custom sculpted figures, and they don't have little like custom meeple or something. They're just little cubes of wood. They're like just painted wooden cubes, but the cards are well done. The board is pretty bog standard. There's nothing super fancy about the board. It's like, here's a semicircle that's this region, and here's a semicircle that's this region. But the actual flavor and gameplay of the game is really well done. It just fits. Every faction in that game felt spot on. And likewise, the Highlander game here, I wasn't sure because River Horse has done 2 licensed property games that I already own, Labyrinth and Dark Crystal. And I enjoy them, but they're very similar in terms of their gameplay. It's very Talisman-esque. You move around in a circle in whatever direction you choose, and you encounter cards and things happen. And there's a clock, there's a timer, like a round timer on both of those games. Dark Crystal is a little more forgiving, or can be a little harder depending on what you like. But it's very similar gameplay, that you're going to hit the end game in like the bottom third of the deck. You're going to move around and try to bulk yourself up and gain allies and items that you need and so on. Very similar gameplay, and it fits mechanically with the movies. They're quest movies. They involve journeys. They involve getting lost a bit. But they're not. They're beautifully put together. The gameplay isn't super exciting, and it doesn't evoke sort of the uniqueness of the movies. Highlander, on the other hand, is good. This is good stuff. The dueling mechanic is pretty good. The era deck, where you're living a life and stuff, that's really good stuff. So I've shown this off on other videos, but in case people are watching this one who have not watched previous ones, you have a couple of different decks, and you have character boards. So we're going to bring out Sunda Kastigir here, who I'm hoping to work on today. So we have Kastigir. Kastigir has a mechanic. When laying low, which means you are drawing from the era deck, you may choose to discard one of the cards you look at. So whenever you draw cards from a deck, you are rolling one of your stat dice. And the stat dice are determined over here by your cunning, your power, and your influence. I believe it's your cunning that lets you decide how many cards to draw. So you basically roll, for Kastigir, you'd be rolling a d8. And whatever you roll is how many cards you draw off the top of that deck. And then you get to choose one to play. So let's say I rolled like a 4. I would draw these cards. And I have drawn 3 life cards and an arena card. And the arena card goes on the board and affects duels that happen in the arena. So immortals with at least 2 life cards upgrade their power die twice while in the arena. That refers to life cards, which are these. So this is a life card. You have a Ruffian's Life. You add this to your timeline, and your timeline is right here. And you add it on like that. You can see which way it goes because you have the C, the P, and the I. And the little minuses and pluses say which dice you're now rolling. So because I've now lived a Ruffian's Life, my cunning is going to go down. My influence is going down. It can't go lower than a d4, though. You're not flipping coins here. But I'm going to be rolling a d6 for cunning while I have this card on my lifeline. But for power, I'm now rolling a d8. Not very cunning, but I did get stronger. Let's say instead of that one, I picked a Life of Lending. Well, it doesn't affect my cunning or my power, but it did make me more influential. If I'm in the arena and I have both of these cards, you can have up to 2 life cards. I get to upgrade my power die twice. Now you can't roll higher than a d12, I think. It's a d10. Where's my... Oh, I think they're in this. I think I put them in the expansion. Yep, I did. No, it's a d12. D12 is your... No, it's a... Yeah, it's a d12. So you can't roll lower than a 4. You can't roll higher than a 12. But that means that I would be rolling a d10 at this point when I go into the arena to duel. If I'm alone in the arena, I do a certain thing. If more than one person is in the arena, then you duke it out. Or the thing that you do, you basically roll, and whoever wins the roll flips the card, and then the card could either give you a bonus because you were the winner and you flipped the card, or it could give the people who didn't flip, or the person who rolled the lowest, it can like punish them in some way, which can be that they lose their head. There is a beheading card in there. You can also get allies out of the era deck. There are events, so this is like Reason to Live. You get to look at the top card of the Fate deck. Allies, Treacherous Friend. Discard this card to resolve the success text of a conflict card instead of rolling. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can get in the era deck. I really like this, and these are all sort of bluish. The more you play, the longer you live. And eventually, depending on how many immortals are in the game, you're going to hit the modern day and have this more reddish. And there is a different they have a different border, different patterns. So if you're playing with someone who is colorblind, there is an indication. It's not the best indication, I'll be honest. If anyone from River Horse is watching, I would love that to be a little bit clearer. That being said, I do love that the dice have a color indicator, but also a number and shape indicator. A+, real good. And the rest of the decks are perfectly fine. They've all got different symbols on the back. So like the Fate deck has skulls on the back. Actually, that's the Fate deck. And then you've got like the Encounter deck. You've got weapons. That's the Ivory Katana. So yeah, I like this game. I think it's very well put together. I think the encounter, the hunting where you have an encounter versus laying low where you live your life mechanic is very good. There's definitely, you're encouraged by the game to be doing both, because you're not going to be gaining quickening tokens to spend to help your rolls if you're not having encounters, but you're also not bulking up your character if you're not living a life, and you're not gaining allies and stuff if you're not living your life. So it definitely encourages you to do both, which I appreciate. So and the characters, the figures are gorgeous. River Horse does absolutely stunning work on their figures. And however you feel about gameplay and anything else, their games are beautifully put together. Labyrinth, beautiful figures. Painting Ludo in Labyrinth was just an enormous amount of fun. I definitely got to practice my ombre effect sort of stuff with that, which was a lot of fun. The figures in that were beautiful. The goblin figures in the expansion were so much fun to paint. Though, man, candy striping is a giant pain. Oh, hey, Andy's watching. Your computer just blue screened, so that's super. Has nothing to do with the streaming computer. It's the computer we use for the chat display. So I have my computer. I'm going to pull up the chat on my computer so I can see it. But the figures are gorgeous, as I was saying. This is Ramirez. Cool. Hey, Pi. Chat died on the big screen, so I have it on my small screen, but I only just opened it. And I am going to have to mute it, because otherwise, my goodness, I would speech jam myself. So yeah, the figures are beautiful. So this is Ramirez. He's in progress right now. I need to do all the gold breeding and stuff. Yeah, it hard crashed. I've been working on his peacock feather cloak, which I love. So what I discovered, I did a lot of looking very closely at reference photos of Ramirez. There aren't really any good photos out there of his back, but there is a really good photo that's used in a lot of promotional materials of him sitting. And while he's seated in his red outfit with his peacock feather cloak, you can see he's got it sort of wrapped around himself, and he's gesturing, and you get to see the bit of the cloak that's like right behind him. And if you look at the texturing on the figure, you can see that these are not your full, the middle of the cloak is not your full peacock feathers. It's not like what people think of when they think of peacock feathers. It's not the big, like, eye ones. Those are up here near the collar. They're around the sides. But this middle of the back part is not. And Um, from beyond the grave. Yeah, Andy's trying to fix the laptop that puts it up here, the chatbot, and the laptop that projects it up onto the screen over here. I have it up on my laptop right here, so I just can't listen. Mm-mm. The bot. Yeah.
This is why I wanted to back up the bot.
Yeah.
And I couldn't export the file.
So those feathers I'm going to need to do some detail work on here and here and here. But if you look at a peacock and you look at the feathers like on its neck and body, they're more just an iridescent blue, green, black. And so that's the effect I was attempting to go for in the middle of the cloak, because that's going to be the vast majority of the cloak. And I am legitimately really happy with how that looks. It actually looks even better on camera than it does in real life. So that's exciting. The interior of the cloak is blue satin. It's like a shimmery blue fabric. So we went with a blue metallic for that. So that's a thing. So now it's time to do some of the detail work on the feathers. The feathers on his hat, which I haven't done yet. And all the braiding and embroidery on his outfit. I'm actually really happy with how his outfit turned out. This was a couple of different layers of different shades of reds. So,
if that works or if it crashes
yeah,
again.
we'll see. So we're going to do some detail work on him. And then we're going to work a little on Kastigir. Get him at least based. This is modern day Kastigir, which I think is very cool. This is the equivalent to modern day Ramirez, because if you have, yeah, that didn't work, Andy. Fundraiser? Is it fundraiser? There we go. He dies. Spoilers for a really old movie, but he dies in this incarnation. Kastigir makes it to modern day New York before he loses his head. On the other hand, we had Connor. Connor's pretty much done. I think I want to do a little bit of work on his face, but I think if I do much more with him, I'm going to ruin him. So this is a matter of cleaning up his base and maybe doing a little bit of highlighting on his face and stuff. But other than that, but he's obviously in his Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod garb. He's got his tartan on, and let me tell you, that tartan was sure a thing to paint. It was actually fun. I enjoy doing that sort of detail work. We've got his loose weave sort of cloak. We've got the fur at his collar. We've got the MacLeod claymore. Yeah, he's done. Celadran 1, thank you. Thank you very much. He's done. He's pretty much done. I want to play with his face a little bit, but she is also done. So this is Namanaga Minamoto. She was an original character developed for the game. And this is her sort of origin outfit. She's from feudal Japan, and she eventually, after her first death, heads off with a traveling samurai who teaches her. He is also immortal, and the two of them become sort of folk hero figures, helping those who have no other recourse. So I had a lot of fun painting her. She was really, really fun to paint. So many little flowers. So she's pretty much done. I have to clean up their bases and make sure that their faces look good. Faces are my downfall. It doesn't seem to matter what skin tone or anything I'm using. I'm just really bad at doing highlighting and shadows on faces. I depend a lot on like a flesh tone wash to give me any definition in a face. Just not very good at it. It always ends up looking over exaggerated, and I don't like that because the faces are so small. So this guy is also done. This is Iman Fasil. He's the guy that Connor beheads in the parking garage right at the beginning of the movie. He has the most boring outfit ever. He is legitimately wearing a black suit and a black vest and a red tie with a white shirt, black gloves, and aviators. That's it. Yeah, that would do it. Helmeted minis. Super. Yeah, unfortunately, I do not get it. Though, having his sunglasses, I was like, oh my god, I don't have to worry about his eyebrows. I don't have to worry about his eyes. Thank goodness. The sunglasses were more trouble than they were worth, though, so whatever. But he's pretty much done because there's, like, nothing else I can do with him. What else do you do with this guy? He's so boring. So we've got Ramirez that we're working on. I'm probably going to finish him today. We've got Kastigir, who we're going to work on. And then we've got Talia, who is the modern incarnation. I started working on her last week a little bit. She is the modern incarnation of another original character. She's got this really, really awesome weapon that I cannot pronounce. I have tried. I will get it wrong. I'm going to look it up again, but it's got, she's Mesoamerican, and it's got some consonant combinations that I'm really not good at catching correctly. So I'm going to work on it, but I know I'm going to get it wrong. And then we've got the Kurgan. Look at him. I'm saving him. Look at his helmet. Look at his face. He's so angry. He's going to be fun. Those are all base game figures. I do have the expansion, however. This is Ikamu's set. Ikamu's set, who I did a skin, I did all of his skin early because I was doing Ramirez, and Ikamu's set is Ramirez, just young Ramirez, early Ramirez. And so I wanted to make sure that their skin tones matched as figures. And because I was mixing my own skin tone for him, because I didn't really want to use exactly the skin tones that come just out of the bottle. Because of that, I wanted to make sure that I used the same mix. I didn't want to have to try to replicate it. Because I'm using dropper bottles, I'm not measuring, yeah. And paint looks different when it's dry than when it's wet. So I wanted to make sure I gave him the same skin tone. So his skin tone is pretty much done. I don't think I'm going to have to worry too much. He's wearing sandals, so I can paint sandal in over that. Yeah. So the expansion has either modern or ancient versions of each of the characters that are in the base game, depending on who you have in the base game. So if we have Connor MacLeod of the Clan MacLeod in the base game, we have Russell Nash in the expansion. If we have the Kurgan in the base game, we have modern day Kurgan in his leather jacket and his bald head. I started with him and then realized there are no full body pictures of the Kurgan in modern day from the movie, which is real annoying. This is Namanaga, and this is her modern incarnation, Amy Gray. I really like that character. I want to explore that. And then we've got Iman Fasil. You may be wondering how such a very white dude ended up with the name Iman Fasil. The answer is he was a crusader and he totally stole it. Stole the name from a dude who basically showed him that what he was doing as a crusader was wrong. Not that... It's complicated, but basically what he learned was the people that I'm killing aren't bad people, they're good people, but also I am doing God's will. And so he took the guy's name but continued to sort of be very self-righteous. Like the guy who taught him that what he was doing as a crusader was not probably the best thing to be doing, was named Iman Fasil, and after he died, this dude took his name. So I've got his crusader outfit to paint, so that'll be interesting. And then you've got Kastigir. And you may be thinking, gee, where did Kastigir come from? I get to put him in a powdered wig. Look at him with like a pistol and everything. And a frock coat. Excellent. Looking forward to that. And then you've got Talia. So Talia, like I said, was Mesoamerican. Her people were being sort of ravaged by the conquistadors, which sucks. And she volunteered to be a sacrifice that in hopes would save her people. It did not work because obviously she's immortal. So after she came back from the dead and had to flee, she decided to just like kill a lot of conquistadors. Hence the conquistador helmet she's holding. So yeah, I'm looking forward to painting her. She's supposed to be like all blood spattered stuff. So she's got a really interesting journey that I like from the backstory given for the two characters added for this. I do appreciate that they added 2 female characters in. That makes me happy. So, alright, I'm going to start some music for myself. Unfortunately, Andy's computer's being kind of a butt, so I don't think we can have some music going in the background. Otherwise, I think this would probably, it would crash. It would crash hard, so. But it's going to get pretty noisy downstairs later. And the mic should keep that from being too bad for you guys. But for me, that might get not so pleasant. Okay. Let's paint. Like I said, I am gonna work on him. I'm actually not gonna work on him right this second. I want to finish doing base coats on her so that they have time to dry, so that I can go over them again later. So last week, when I was looking at her character sheet does not precisely match the outfit. She's wearing like a short sleeve shirt there. I mean, she looks like a total badass, but it's not what the figure is wearing so much. So I looked at, one of the nice things that this game has is backstory for each character. Look at all that. Look at all that. It's so good. And the high-res photo of the render of the figure. And that does give me a really good look at what was intended to be the sculpt. So my big problem with Talia's sculpt is that she is wearing a sort of she's wearing like a sleeveless t-shirt, and the sleeves have been cut off here, right under the arm. And she's not flat-chested. And there is no bra in evidence. I will say right now, I'm willing to put up with a lot of magic in the Highlander universe. Swords that can like show up out of nowhere, pocket dimensions in a trench coat sort of deal. But something's holding those boobs up, and it's not magic. So she's getting a tank top under her tank top. I'm basically painting in an extra tank underneath, because layered tank tops are so in. They're not. That feels like a very 90s thing. But we're gonna work on it. So she's wearing basically, she's wearing like a lot of camo. Her backstory is that she starts out as this sort of freedom fighter, not even a freedom fighter so much as just like getting revenge for things that colonizers have done to her people and people like her people. Not even necessarily the settlement in the community she was a part of, but other people in the same geographic area who also were invaded and cheated and slaughtered. And she tries to help the downtrodden. Unfortunately, sometimes the downtrodden will be using not so great tactics. And as the conflict goes on and on and on, in some cases, you might find that one faction of the downtrodden has decided, let's go ahead and just kill everyone, or let's use really brutal tactics, or maybe the people who said they were downtrodden weren't actually as downtrodden as they claimed to be. It was more that they were, they decided they wanted control over other people. There's a lot of things that can happen over the course of a couple hundred years. And over the course of Talia's life, she goes from being sort of this vengeance-fueled, I'm going to avenge my people and avenge people like my people figure, to, you know what, we're all screwed. Everyone's horrible. You might as well get yours. And she becomes a gun runner and then a drug runner, because gets her money, and someone will get something out of it. It might as well be her. So she's a really interesting figure. I find her really fascinating. So she's definitely, she's wearing like cargo pants. She is utilitarian here, and she's got a bandana on, and then she's gonna have dark hair. So camo is really hard to paint. That's one of the things I've learned over the years. Camo is a giant pain. It's not how you think it is. Like, you think about camo and you're like, oh, it's just blobs. It's very strategically placed blobs in a lot of cases. You can't have it to be too regular. It's got to look very irregular, and you can't just have like, okay, the white goes down first and then the green goes down, and then things overlap in really interesting ways. I had to paint some camo when I did the trucks for Wasteland Express, and it was hard. It was really hard to do. So she's got this sort of gray undershirt going on there. She's got a green shirt here. I feel like the green shirt is the one that needs to be the camo, and then the pants can be like a solid darker green. That's what I want. So Andy did put the link in the chat, but I will also mention it. Through the month of January, Battleground is running a fundraiser for Take This, which is an organization that does a lot of work to support mental health for gamers, and that's board gamers, video gamers, the gaming community. If you've been to any of the larger gaming conventions, like PAX, they're at PAX South right now. They run AFK rooms. So AFK rooms are meant to be, they're like break rooms for con goers. Being at a convention can be really overwhelming. It can be, it's just so much all the time. And if you're someone who knows that you get overstimulated or overwhelmed by being in large crowds or having a lot of lights and noises and things, or even just having the pressure to do it all, see it all, be everywhere, go everywhere, do everything. If even if you don't know you're that sort of person and you find out you're that sort of person, the AFK rooms are there in order to help you through that. They are rooms that are intentionally kept very quiet. They're on the map. They're easy to find. The enforcers at PAX, and no matter what PAX you're at, the enforcers will help you find the AFK room if it is open. They're open during like business hours, sort of. They're like, they open when the con opens and they close, I think, either around when the show floor closes or a little after the show floor closes, because they have staff. We're not just talking a room where you go to sit. It certainly can be. But they also have a lot of people there to help you. So if you start getting really, really overwhelmed and you need to talk to someone, because, like I said, conventions can be a lot. And they can sort of take things that you didn't think were issues at the time and bring them to the fore, because suddenly you're feeling overwhelmed and everything is happening all at once, or, you know, you're with your friends and someone gets drunk and says something, and there's so much that can happen at a convention that could throw someone emotionally. Having the AFK rooms to either just go take a break or to go talk to someone and say, I'm feeling real overwhelmed and I don't know what to do, can be really, really, really helpful. I have not personally had to make use of going to the AFK rooms. Yeah, AFK rooms are awesome. Knowing that they're there is so enormously helpful to me. I haven't had to go sit in one, but just the knowledge that I could if I had to has been more than enough in some stressful times. Because it's like a safety net. And knowing that it exists is so good. So, yeah, and they also do, like, the AFK, yeah, exactly. You can go and just sit quietly. You can go and take a nap. They're great spaces. And Take This also does a lot to, like, promote mental health and, like, dealing with mental health issues. Sometimes you're not going to be okay, and that's fine. You don't always have to be okay. Yeah, I haven't needed to go sit in an AFK room, but I have certainly been thrilled just to know that it's an option. Knowing that you have an option can sometimes just keep you going. So we are doing a fundraiser for them throughout the month of, Yeah, it's okay to not be okay. We are doing a fundraiser for them throughout the month of January. Hopefully, we can add a little bit to support them, to thank them for supporting us. They're good folks. And Indy and I have had some friends who've helped out there. Our buddy Will, whom we met years and years ago at PAX at a Loading Ready Run meetup. He's helped out with Take This a lot, and he is good folks. So I really like Take This. So there are a lot of different ways to support them. You can donate through our stream, certainly. We do have a link in the chat, and we also have a link. We do not have a link. No, we do have a link. We have a link to Take This down below, which is awesome. It's just below the stream on the left. I think I'm going to have to move this. I'm sorry. I'm going to be putting my paint palette in shot because I'm finding I'm crossing under a whole lot, and it's problematic. That's not the same gray. Oops. What the heck was I using? Oh, it must have been this. Yeah, just knowing that the room is there is huge. You may never need to set foot in it, but knowing that it's there means that, like, if you are someone who has a lot of anxiety issues or even just minor anxiety issues, it can be so much more comfortable going to an event knowing that if you need a hand, there's something in place. Oh, you won't say that when this palette is an absolute nightmare mess. One of the things that I like about doing painting of individual figures as opposed to armies is that I mix a lot of colors. I'm not, like, locked in to colors that are in a bottle. And I don't have to worry about, like, mixing a color and keeping it forever. I'm going to mix it for this one thing. I'm pretty happy with how that's looking. We're actually going to do the bandana. It is weird realizing that I'm listening to music you guys can't hear. Yeah. So one of the things I really like about using what I'm using, I am using label backings from the shipping labels that Battleground puts on cards they ship out to people who've ordered stuff on the online store. And there are two really nice things about these. One, I have a ready supply. I don't have to worry about like running out whenever I'm running low. I'm like, hey, Andy, can you save a bunch of labels? It's like, yep, sure. But on top of that, it also, I can, when this dries here, I'll just plink them right off into the trash, and I can keep using the same palette for a little bit. Or if I run out of space on what I'm working on during a day, there's probably something that I can peel off. We're actually going to give her like really, really, really dark brown hair. I'm basically going to take black and add brown to it. Yep. So here we go. Here's like an example. I want to do Talia's hair. And she's got really dark hair. But I don't want it to just be flat black. One, because hair isn't like that. Even the darkest hair still has something to it. So what we're doing here is taking black, brown. I'm just going to mix them. This is the darkest brown that was in the box. There we go. So now we have a really dark brown. Whoa, that could have been very bad. So a couple of months ago, I spilled an entire pot of chestnut ink on my lap. It happened over the summer. That was a bummer. That was a real bummer. One, waste of ink. But also, two, it's not mine. These are borrowed. Fortunately, the owner was super chill about it. But I learned an important lesson about acrylic paint. So here's what I learned about acrylic paint and getting it on jeans. If you're going to get it on fabric, jeans are the best thing to get them on. Because you're going to have to scrub, because acrylic dries as a plastic, basically. And you're going to need to scrub that stuff. It's not just going to like wash out unless you get it all out while it's still wet. But if you got a lot on you, that's not going to happen. So you're going to need to scrub at it. So dishwashing liquid and a toothbrush. That is what I discovered. Dishwashing liquid and a toothbrush will get you very far. At this point, I'm probably the only one who would ever notice that particular pair of jeans has paint on it. But that's because I kept them wet. I did not let that stuff dry as much as I could keep it from drying. And what little did dry, I was able to rub out with the toothbrush, because the toothbrush has like fairly firm bristles that are short, so you do get a lot of like flicking action almost in there. Yeah, exactly. It will not come out of fabric. So you want to keep it wet. As long as you keep it wet, you have a chance. But as soon as it dries, you're at that point you're sort of hoping that you can scrape it out. So they were a pair of, they were like brand new. They were never meant to be like jeans that, like good quality jeans that I would wear to work. They were meant to be like knocking around at the game store jeans. They're super comfy though. And I felt horrible that I had spilled paint on them. I was able to buy a replacement pair like that day online. I was like, let's go find another pair of those. So that was cool. And yeah, that's pretty good. I felt real stupid. But yeah, I was streaming at the time too, so that video's out there somewhere of me being like, all right, we gotta stop this stream. I poured paint all over my pants. So. She wearing boots. She is wearing boots. We're going to let her have her combat boots. So what I've sort of figured is that she's basically like, she's working with like paramilitary groups. She's doing a lot of like moving around in jungles, but then also probably traveling. She's probably not flying into like JFK. So the reason it's probably going to get noisy downstairs eventually is because it is pre-release weekend for Ravnica Allegiance. And they've got a whole bunch of people registered for the 1 o'clock event. And Andy is working today, so... So one of the things that I discovered when I started streaming was that streaming really did help me pay attention to weird little crevices. Because if I look on the camera, sometimes I can catch places that I have otherwise like missed. Like, oh look, the camera caught that even though I had no idea it wasn't painted. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll go back and like watch the VOD and look at when I've turned a figure upside down. I think she's looking pretty good in general. She's wearing this cool necklace. She's also wearing this cool necklace in her ancient figure. I don't know how well you can make that out. But there are... You're doing the two-headed giant? Awesome. I'm a little worried about weather. But yeah, they definitely have like a similar necklace on, so I'm going to need to make sure that I paint it the same way. It's gonna be gold. Let's be frank here. Yeah, assuming you're not snowed in. You guys are south though, so the snow is supposed to be mostly up north. I'm worried about Saugus. But I know you guys are to the south of us. I'm actually going to look through the sword deck for her sword. Oh, look, it's right there. So this is the Brutal MacLeod. This is what I mean by there's some letter combinations that I'm not 100% on. MacLeod. It's that UAHUI in there. Quahuitl. The T and the L, actually, I'm fine. It's a Waddle. Yeah, Saugus is the Winterfell of Battlegrounds, basically. So this is the Brutal MacLeod. MacLeod. Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, this does not actually have, like, the skulls and stuff sculpted into it. They did not go quite that far. Instead, it's got this sort of zigzaggy motif on it. I don't know how well you can make that out. It's a little shadowed here. Let me see if I can get that to any better. No, it's not sculpted in like that. So you can sort of see it's just a sort of zigzaggy pattern. Trying to get it to show up on the camera. I can't see very closely to the camera that actually shows it real time, so I'm like having to look at it a couple of seconds delayed. Anyway, it's got this sort of zigzaggy bit here. So I'm just gonna paint it shadowed steel and we'll run with it. Good stuff, though. I'm actually going to look up MacLeod's. MacLeod. I'll get it eventually. I need to hear it said by someone who actually knows what they're doing. It's a wooden club with obsidian blades? Never mind, this is going to be amazing. It looks like their render of it, like their render in the picture, is based on like legit the real thing. The picture on like Wikipedia has a pretty boss looking skull sculpted into the middle of it, and then some other pretty cool stuff. And yeah, it's got like all these obsidian chips sort of wedged into the sides of it. You're looking up a pronunciation guide. Yeah, it's Mesoamerican vowel combos. How do you behead something with a club? Because it's got obsidian blades. So this part in the middle here is a wooden club. These bits along the edges are obsidian chips that have been embedded into the wood, and they are sharp. It's called the Brutal MacLeod. Like, so that's supposed to be wood here, and these are obsidian pieces that are sharp on the outer edge. The way you behead someone with it is you're badass. That's how you behead someone with it. Before rolling for a duel, you may look at the top card of the fate deck. Yeah, sure. I mean, this sort of explains why Talia is like so OP. After you draw a fate card, you gain a quickening token. You're just gaining quickenings no matter what. People get one look at your MacLeod and are like, I'll take my own head. How's that sound? I don't want you to going at my neck with that thing. Thanks. I will do it myself. Just lie down right here. Take my sword. Just do it with mine. It'll be cleaner. God, this looks so brutal. Obsidian is capable of producing an edge sharper than high-quality steel razor blades. So, yeah. That's how you behead someone with it. This looks amazing, and I love it. Well, that's a lot more fun than just slapping some shadowed steel onto it. These look so terrifying. Yeah, this is great. This is fine. This is fine. She's brutal. I love this character. They made really interesting original characters for this game. So this middle bit is going to be wood. So let's get some brown to put into this. It's like a light brown wood. MacLeod. Yeah. MacLeod. That's the closest I can get. I don't read like pronunciation alphabet, whatever it's called, terribly well. Handwood. By the time of the Spanish conquest, the MacLeod it was widely distributed in Mesoamerica. It was used by different civilizations, including the Aztec, Mayan, Mixtec, and Toltec. They did their research, like more than a lot of Maquahuitl or Maquawit. Maquahuitl. That sounds, yeah, the IPA, that's what it is. IPA always makes me think of beer, though, so. But yeah, it's not even like your typical IPA. Like, there are some weird symbols in there. But yeah, I want one. I'm just trying to figure out what sort of wood is usually used. Is capable of inflicting serious lacerations from the rows of obsidian blades embedded in its side. These can be napped into blades or spikes, or into a circular design that looked like scales. Even better. It's not a sword or a club, but it approximates a European broadsword. So, yeah, cool. Yeah, but what wood did they use? Hey, I'm streaming. I'm learning about the Maquahuitl, which is a wooden club with obsidian chips embedded in the sides to turn it into a blade. It's vicious, and I'm amazed by it.
You're still doing the Highlander?
Yes, I am.
That's why I wanted to see. I don't have a picture.
Well, if you come up, I can show you the actual figures. Nate's here.
Hi.
These three are done. This one is about half done. You may touch. They're not wet. Though I appreciate you waiting. Look at that nonsense.
I think when I saw you doing the last week, that's so good. Like,
There's so much color.
You said you're probably gonna put some gold, some gold.
He's got like gold braiding and embroidery and stuff and like stripes down that. So, and then there's her.
Oh,
I'm really proud of
the
it.
flowers there.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I'm really proud of it. And then you've got Connor and his.
Oh, that tartan is so.
Thank you, Pi. Pi says, hi, new friend. Pi is our friend Jules from Norton.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice.
He's not as interesting. He's super boring.
It's boring.
Yeah. But she's got that ridiculous blade. She's not wet.
Wow, I like that. And that's one of the custom ones, right? Or
Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the original ones. And this is what that, like, the blades actually look like.
I've seen that. That's insane.
It's wild. And, like, actually looking at, like, some of the more, like, let me see. There are, like, other photos of, like, legit ones. Look at that nonsense.
Yikes.
Terrifying. Terrifying. So,
Alright, well, back I go.
all right.
But I just thought I'd say hi.
Thank
See
you.
how things go.
Good luck with the pre-release.
Ciao.
What are you playing? What? Excellent. I opened an Orzhov pack the other night, like last night, and I would have been playing Simic. I'll put it that way.
Simic would have been my number 2 choice.
I did not open a ton of good support for Orzhov, but
Yeah.
I did open
I
some
would
decent
love,
Simic.
I would love to open a Kaya.
It would be nice.
Allie's hoping for a Dominic right now.
Don't talk about me.
Love you.
Love you.
Bye, Nate.
Bye, Steve.
So, okay, this looks amazing and brutal, and I love it. So we're going to run with that. God, and they've all got, like, different patterns and stuff engraved into the wood. This is fantastic. It's a fairly light colored wood. It's not like a really dark colored wood, which is cool.
I really thought you'd come over and grab one of those stupid cookies.
No, not that.
Yeah.
That's the table. Let's just take a Swift taking a tea. Unacceptable, Derek.
All right. Let's. Nice, nice. Rakdos and Azorius. Azorius seems to be the one people aren't going for as much, so goodness only knows what sort of absolute nonsense people won't be prepared for. So definitely they used the one in the Wikipedia article as their basis for the weapon in the figure. And on the, they flat out used that image, which I'm sure has like a Creative Commons license. But yeah, so we're gonna paint the middle of that brown for the wood. We're gonna go with a fairly light brown to start with, because I'm gonna wash it. Yeah, Azorius just isn't the one that people are going for as much. So there are a couple of reasons for that, probably. One is likely that the mechanic is not super, super attractive to control players. Because control players don't like sorceries so much. But then also, Simic's just super fun. So here's the thing. When I thought that this was all metal, I was like, this is going to be super simple. I'll just paint shadowed steel onto it and be done with it. It's actually going to be a lot more complicated than that, which is both really cool and slightly annoying. So the reason it's cool is because it's not just going to be a generic blade, because the rest of these are pretty much like, oh yeah, they have steel blades, cool. This one's definitely going to look different, which is very, very neat. That being said, it's going to require a lot more detail work. That I had not anticipated having to do with her blade. That is not a complaint. It is just an observation. I almost feel like I just need to paint the whole thing in the wood tone first, and then go over it with like a glossy black for the obsidian. I opened a Judith in our box last night. Not in my pre-release pack, but in the box. She's real pretty. Yeah, I think I am just going to paint this all in the wood tone, because it's not going to be hard to go back over it with black afterwards for the obsidian. So one of the things that I do with my figures after I finish them is I seal them. I spray them with a sealant. This went very, very poorly for me when I was doing John's, our buddy John's Starship Samurai figures. Did them on a hot day. I wasn't thinking about how warm it was in the back hallway until I brought the figures out of the back hallway, because you don't want to bring them back like you just sprayed them with adhesive. Basically, you just sprayed them with sealant. You don't want to bring them into the store right away because they stink of spray adhesive, spray varnish. You don't want to do that. So I brought them into the store after the fact, whereupon I realized these dried filmy. And when I say they dried filmy, I mean like they had a white film over maybe 3/4 of the surface of like a bunch of them. Not all of them. It wasn't a total disaster, but a bunch of them. And I felt real stupid. And there were a couple that were totally salvageable. Like it was just a matter of like doing a couple of extra highlights, and it was no big deal. There were others that were not salvageable at all. I had to completely redo like their top coats and detail work. And yeah, that was one of those moments where you look at all the work that you did and you think about all the work you're going to have to redo, and you have to decide how much time can I allow for crying. How much crying time do I have right now? So when I was in high school, my high school had a program for seniors at the end of your senior year. It was the senior project. And any senior in good standing could apply to, I mean, you could apply if you were in poor standing, you just wouldn't get in, to do a project, an end of term project, instead of either all of or a portion of your normal classes. So you would finish up your classes like half a semester early and then work on this big project. And it could be almost anything. There were kids who made movies, like documentaries. There were people who like put together chapbooks of poetry and stuff. There were art projects. There were like massive research papers, photography projects, all sorts of things. Absolutely amazing stuff. Drama projects, plays and stuff. There were people who would do like their senior project would be the set design for a play, and someone else's senior project would be to direct it, and someone else's senior project would be to act in it. So like it was a group project, and your grades were sort of dependent on each other. You could apply to do like a full project where you got to drop all of your classes, a half project where you got to drop like half your classes, and a like 3/4 project where you kept taking one class, but otherwise you did your project. I applied for a full project, and my project was to make a quilt. And it was I will admit, I got away with a little here. I build it not just as I'm going to make a quilt, but also I'm going to connect with my heritage. My heritage being like my grandmother, my father's mother, is an avid quilter, right up until like her final illness. Like when she moved into a nursing home, that's when she stopped quilting. But before that, she stuck with it for a long time. And I inherited an unfinished quilt of hers. I still have it. It's the most 70s of colors and fabric. We are talking brown and orange. And like not a nice brown. We are talking 70s brown. And I inherited it, and there's no way I could have finished it at the time. We're actually going to use this tan also to paint her necklace. One, so that I can get a little definition on it, so I can see where I need to fill in bits of her skin and shirt, but also because I don't want to have to just do tons of gold on it. But I knew that she had designed quilts, and I knew that she had quilted for a long time. And so I applied for my project, sort of saying that this was going to be me discovering something about my grandmother. And I did. I wasn't lying about that. But this sort of discovery part wasn't nearly as big a portion of it as the actually making a quilt portion of it. So I designed, this wasn't a like I'm going to use an existing pattern deal. This was I was designing not just the patchwork, but then the quilting pattern. I wasn't going to be using a typical machine quilted deal. I wasn't going to be going with an existing pattern. The patchwork was going to be a design of my own, and the quilting was going to be a design of my own. And my friend Kira and I did it at the same time. We each made a quilt. And we both worked really hard on our quilts. She had hers connecting to her heritage as well. Her family is from India, but lived in the UK, so she had sort of a travel theme on hers. I had gone out to sea for a couple of weeks the previous summer, and it had made a big impression on me. I've always grown up near the coast. I've always felt like the ocean was a big part of me. So I really wanted that to be a portion of the quilt. I thought, you know, if we're using a quilt as like a way to tell a story, a way to communicate something about ourselves, then that definitely is part of who I am. So I made mine basically a compass rose. It's an octagonal piece in the middle, like the middle square is an octagon with little triangles around the corners. Okay. I'll be around, I'll be here. And there's a compass rose quilted into the middle of it. And the letters, then there are waves around in the middle portion. So there's like octagon, and then there are pieces around it, and then there's a border around that. And it's all like blocks. It's like a 3 by 3 panel. But they're done in such a way that it creates a different picture, which is one of the cool things you can do with quilting, is you can piece it together so that even if it's a 9-block quilt, it looks like it's, you know, telling a different story. And that center, that ring around the middle portion is all waves. It's quilted into waves. And that was a giant pain to make happen. And then around the outer edge, I had in the corners, like, you know, northwest, northeast, and in the center, an N for north, and it went all the way around. Well, it's a 3 by 3 quilt. It's not that big, and I was a high school student, and I didn't have a floor rig, like a quilting frame, like a freestanding quilting frame. I had a quilting hoop. It's like an embroidery hoop, but bigger. So I was doing it piece by piece. I swapped my E's and my W's. It was the last weekend. It was due Monday morning. I had to have it and my log of like the process of making it. All of that needed to be done and ready. And I laid it out to start basting on the stitches for the like edging to close it and put the border on. And looked at it and realized I had swapped the E's and the W's. That was horrible. That was a moment like that where I looked at it and thought, that took me a week. And I'm going to have to rip out all of these stitches, all of these letters. I'm going to have to rip out half the letters on the quilt. I'm going to have to re-quilt all the W's and E's on the quilt. So that's 6 letters. And I'm going to have to then do the edging. And I had blocked out the weekend for the edging. Yeah. Yeah, that sucked. So I cried. I cried. I ripped stitches and cried. But it was definitely a situation of like, how much time do I have to be angry with myself and sad and frustrated? How much time do I have before I need to just go back at it and get this done? And the conclusion that I reached was I have no time. I have zero time, and I'm going to have to just get this done. So later on in my life, when Project Runway started, there's a really well-known point in one of the earlier seasons. I can't remember if it's like season 2 or something, but it's a team challenge, and one of the contestants is crying, and she's like kind of frozen because what they're making just isn't coming together and it's down to the wire. And one of the other contestants is like, I don't care if you cry, but you gotta cut and cry. Yeah, maybe it's not the healthiest thing in the world to be doing, but if you're on a deadline and things have to be done by a certain time and a certain date, yeah. I don't care if you cry. You gotta cut and cry. So definitely with the quilt, that was a thing where I was like, well, I just got to get it done, and maybe I'm going to cry while I do it, but it's got to be done. With the figures, I allowed myself a moment to be real frustrated.
Last I knew, it said he was let down planeswalkers for a while. Yeah, because they dumped like so many times.
Am I on camera?
There you go. You guys playing Highlander tomorrow or? Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the 1 o'clock or the noon might be slim, but like people will fight for this stuff to get it done. Like there are some people who only come for 2 weeks.
I wish I knew what wood this typically is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, trust me. Did it work for me? Absolutely it would.
I really want to figure out what sort of wood this is. God, it is like a chainsaw blade. Oak or pine? Thank you. Yeah, oak. Cool. It's a very warm. It's like almost a reddish tone to it. So what I'm probably going to do is do a wash on this that makes use of that. Because I don't know if I can really do a good wood grain in there. Since Pi is away, I'm probably not going to talk a whole lot for a little bit. I'm actually going to put my other earbud in and try and isolate from the noise downstairs because people are doing deck building. And it's a little noisy. Hopefully, I will hear that. I'm liking how she's looking so far. I might let her dry a little bit and do some work on Ramirez. So I'm using my really tiny brush. I need to use my not so tiny brush for this.
picture of Ramirez for this.
That works.
He's got like gold buttons and stuff, and I just wanted to check placement of some things. His belt is also a darker brown, and I definitely want to go through and do that.
Yeah, we still got the old ones. Yeah. We still got some of the old ones.
God, thank you so much, River Horse, for doing such nice sculpts. I'm actually pretty happy with how that looks.
Hello, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Hello, and welcome to the 1 p.m. Ravnica Allegiance pre-release. So I know we've got some new faces here. I want to go over a couple of quick announcements before we start passing out packs. My name is Andrew. Hello, everybody.
Hi,
I'm
Andrew.
actually playing in this event, so if you need help during the event, if you need sleeves or anything like that, you're going to talk to Derek. He's the owner. He's responsible for all of this. For anybody who's
You
not
can
been
hear
here
downstairs
before,
pre-release has
a
started.
couple of things about facilities. We have a bathroom. It is right over here. There's a black door right next to the Ravnica Allegiance sign. There is trash. It's kind of hidden. It's in that black countertop there. There is a hole in the top of the counter. We will come around and pick up all your new trash after you open your packs, though, so just hang on to that. We'll grab it from you. There is can recycling down on the other
So
side of
this
the
is
there.
the ivory-handled
Now,
katana.
for the event itself, if anybody here has not played in one of these pre-releases, this is what's going to happen. In a few minutes, we're going to call everybody's name. You're going to come up here, pick up your pack. Do not open it yet. Inside that box, there are 5 packs of Ravnica Allegiance and 1 pack that is a seeded pack based on the guild you chose. You can use all those cards, including the David Skimp foil promo. in the construction a minimum 40 card deck. You can use more than 40 cards if you want, but it has to have a minimum of 40.
He's got a little bit of gold detailing on his gloves, so we're gonna do that
Use
too.
those lands. Please do return them at the end of the tournament because we are low on lands and we have 3 more tournaments to do this weekend. If you enjoy yourselves, remember we have another pre-release at 7 o'clock. We have one at noon tomorrow and then a 2-headed giant tomorrow at 5 or 6 there. At 5 o'clock. In addition to that, we have the Bundle Rumble coming up next Friday. The Bundle Rumble at 7 p.m. on Friday is like a super sealed event. Instead of using a pre-release pack, you use a bundle, which is 10 packs instead of 6. Build your 40-card deck, battle it out, and you could win one of these lovely plaques that you can see on the wall over here. Or you can put it up on our wall, and people will remember your name forever. The following Monday, after the Bundle Rumble, is the beginning of the Ravnica League, the Ravnica Allegiance League. For that, you play in games for a 4-week league using a seeded pack and a booster as your starting deck. So that's going to be a lot
Not
of
being
fun.
as careful about
And in
this
addition,
because
we
it's supposed to
have
be like a
every Saturday,
fairly wide swath of
standard
embroidery.
tournament at 3
So
p.m., free standard games, things like that. Drafts on Friday nights. So I hope everybody has a wonderful time. We're going to start handing out packs in just a few minutes. It looks like we're almost done signing everybody up. So just give us a couple of seconds and we'll start calling out names.
I will touch that up after I'm done.
I mean, the whole hat's going to need to get touched up, so.
I just wish I knew what the scabbard looked like.
Oh, just discovered something about his gloves.
I'm really pleased with how he's looking. I'm gonna do his hair.
His hair is gray. But we're not going to do a really dark gray. Because he's actually supposed to be younger in this version of the game.
He's got it in like a red scabbard. Yeah, it 100% is like a red scabbard with a gold sort of tip at the end. I can't see the tip of it, but we're gonna do that red.
Okay, everyone, sorry for the delay here. We're gonna get everybody into this point, so we're gonna start calling out names. They'll be alphabetical from A to Z. So just try to anticipate your name. We want people to get their packs in hand as quickly as possible. Do not open your decks. Do not open the packs until everyone has theirs. We'll use the call to open up. So let's start off. William Henry and Kyle Bennett and Josh Pinot. Thomas Callahan, Matthew Steele, Mark Giordani, there may be a few out of alphabetical order. Dave Gustafson, Andrew Howard, Paul Johnson, Thomas Johnson.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and Civic is huge. But
Robert
I'm
Kavanaugh,
debating it, but I love Black White.
Owen Penny, Ben Duvall.
All right. What do I do with his hair?
That's my big question right now.
Because obviously Sean Connery's hair in the movie is gray. However, as I've discovered, or as I've discussed in some earlier videos, River Horse was not able to get Sean Connery's likeness for the sake of the game. It would have been exorbitantly expensive for them to get his likeness. It would not have been worth the amount of money in order to produce the game they wanted to produce. It would have taken way more out of what they wanted to make. So instead we have this dude, and he is very blonde. Now, on one hand, having discussed this with a friend whose family legitimately is from Egypt, she was like, yeah, I would accept him as at least partially Egyptian, more than Sean Connery. But also, this man is blonde. I think even in the, like, look at this nonsense man. Anyway, he's blonde. I feel like I just need to give him, like, generic dark brown, like mid-brown hair. You're back! Welcome back. I'm discussing Ramirez's hair and what I'm gonna do about it. We're gonna give him brown hair. It's gonna be dark brown hair, but it's still gonna be brown hair. Because he's a lot younger in this version. I gotta give him facial hair too.
Oh, this is all horrible. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Hey,
Hi, folks online.
tell me how badly I messed up his face.
Oh, look. Hello, folks. It looks pretty good.
I didn't like
Paint
blop
got
it on
into
too.
his right eye, I guess.
God, did it?
I'm just saying it looks like it's filled up the sculpt.
I don't think the sculpt was too.
Oh, okay. But no, the beard and mustache, his little soul patch looks fine.
Cool. That was what I was worried about.
Yeah. I'm gonna open some cards. My computer hasn't crashed again, I see. Oh, I'm sorry.
Don't tempt it.
Try and sort cards without jostling the table.
I appreciate that.
So for my promo card, Civic Ascendancy.
Cool.
It's not the greatest in sealed because it relies on you getting a whole bunch of +1/+1 counters up. But I like alt win conditions.
You do?
So you've been working on anybody besides Ramirez? Oh, you've been working on her. I see
Yeah.
you're working on her.
So her weapon is absolutely brutal, which it's called the brutal. What did we decide? MacLeod? I think the stress was on the third syllable. Here's the thing. It's a wooden club
Yeah, I saw that.
with obsidian, like, blades set into it.
So you're less beheading than you are mashing their neck to a pulp until their head falls off.
It's like a chainsaw blade,
Wow.
but without the motor.
Yeah, you provide the motor app.
You know what? Given this character, I have every belief, I have every faith that she would be able to.
Yeah. It's an impressive weapon.
Yeah.
My rare in my first actual pack. Is Kaya's Wrath. It's an Orzhov card, so it doesn't work in a Simic deck at all. That's fine. It's a good card.
All right.
Pack 3.
So I'm actually really pleased with how he's looking. I want to do a little detail work on the feathers on the edge of his cloak, and obviously the feathers here on his hat. So we're going to do that. We're going to do what I did before. We're going to start with some jade green.
My packs really want me to go into Orzhov.
Yeah, they do.
This is Smothering Tide. Whenever an opponent draws a card, that player must pay 2 generics. If they don't, you create a colorless treasure artifact.
What's blue, green, white? What shard is that? It's a shard, not a wedge.
Bant? It's Bant.
You're probably right. Yes.
Yes,
Live pre-order pack opening and
it's Bant. You could go Bant.
I could totally.
You could definitely go blue, green, white. You have that Azorius Guildgate.
This one's a black one. Awaken the Erstwhile.
Wow, it really wants you playing Orzhov.
Yeah.
This is the opposite of the pack I opened last night that was supposed to be Orzhov, and I had all that awesome Simic support for it. Yes, it is Bant. I had to be like, Shards are Jund, Grixis, Naya, Esper. I was like, Bant.
I got the Frog Lizard token.
Thank you for the bit.
Frog Lizards.
I do like frog lizards. All right.
Gonna work on his feather.
Yeah, we're going to work on the feathers in his hat.
So on the eyes of the feathers on his back, are you doing anything to make them sort of glossy or?
So here's the thing. The feathers on his back
Yeah.
don't have eyes.
Wow,
This is-
Amanda, this is our third Seraph of the Scales. You got one in your
Hot
pre-release pack.
damn, yeah, it
You got one
is.
in our box. And now I've got one in this
of those.
pre-release pack.
So here's the thing, Andy.
Yeah.
If you look closely at his back, only the feathers at the collar and around the edges actually have eyes.
Yes.
So the back feathers, back feathers, are just the body feathers.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I am going to do something for the eyes. So the eyes of peacock feathers are actually really interesting if you look at them and break them down by like color. Mardu I know because it's legitimately like my favorite color combo, and also I always think of James saying Mardu in that episode of Friday Nights. But on top of that, I always blank on the Silumgar and Sidisi one, the blue-black green. I always blank on that every single time. Even right now, I'm like, I know the rest of them, but
Well, I got a Benthic
Yeah.
Biomaster.
That's
not
cool.
bad. That's, so that helps me with my PO.
yeah, I know there's Mardu, Abzan, Jeskai, Teemer.
So I like your idea of going Bant.
Don't know. I know the colors for the last one. I know that it's the one with the guy. It's Kastigir, and Kastigir is like around Silumgar's neck in Sultai. I know it's an S one, and I'm always like, it's Sidisi, it's Silumgar, it's Kastigir. It's got that S, and I can never remember Sultai. I know what they are. I know their whole deal. Can never remember the name of it.
If I could have been here last week, I would have brought two decks that I wanted to play, and the deck that won the first time that I played because everyone chose that one.
So as I was saying, peacock feathers are actually really interesting. They're not like everyone thinks of them as eyes, but they're really, really interestingly put together when you actually look at the component pieces of them. They're not just like green and blue. There's a brown. There's a whole brown section in there that goes along with it. So it's actually the sort of feathery bits. If you think of like my hand as a peacock feather, and this, the back of my palm is where we think of the eye being. These are all like green and black iridescent wispy feathers. This section here is a greenish brown around the outer edge, and then in the center there's a bright blue and then a dark blue. That's really interesting to me. I don't think I can do that much detail on the scale that I have. So what I'm actually going to end up doing is a light coat of like almost a brown wash. It's not going to be fully opaque. And then I'm going to use a very dark blue and then just the barest lighter blue over that. I might actually just use a metallic blue over that to get the iridescent sort of quality to it and run with that. That's actually a really good mnemonic for it. That Sultai sounds like Sultan, which reminds you of Aladdin, and Jasmine's father. Jasmine's color scheme is blue, green, and black. That's a really good mnemonic for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the only one of the wedges that I haven't like internalized in my head name-wise. The rest of them I can usually get. Teamer, I remember because they're all like mountainous. They're up in like the snow and stuff. And I think of avalanches in the mountains in the snow. And avalanches are caused by tremors in the snow. Just Teamer. That's my little like trick for Teamer. That was the one that I had trouble. Sultai and Teamer were the two that I had the most trouble with. And that's how I remembered Teamer. So I may use your trick for Sultai.
So this is very funny. I'm listening to my like Highlander playlist,
Yeah.
but I can't play it out loud or we will be muted.
Yeah.
So I've got a whole lot of music going on in my ears.
And y'all can't hear any of it.
So what I'm going to do now, because that green, it really is a bright green, I'm going to use some dry brushing
To dry brush a little bit of this green on. Just the barest bit.
I think I'm just going to go straight Orzhov.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. You've got enough support for it?
not a perfect deck, but it's better than my Simic deck would be. I feel.
Yeah, Jeskai, I mean, for a long time, the Jeskai was Marka. Before it was Jeskai, that's what it was. All right. Now it's time for some detail work on that cloak. We're going to need a very dark blue. I've got the metallic blue. I know there's a green metallic in here too, somewhere. There it is. Thank you very much. These feathers have been one of the bigger challenges I've dealt with in terms of getting the colors of something just right. It's real hard, as it turns out, to paint peacock feathers. We're going to go with those two blues. Actually, I want to do that brown first. That was more brown than I needed.
2 decks.
All right, let's hear about them.
I've got 20 minutes left. So, deck number 1, my Simic deck. I want some field gates? I don't think so.
No fixing, bold.
I got burned by my guild gates last night. They slowed my decks down so much. It was very painful. So, this deck is a bunch of small creatures. Has 3 Ceruli Caretakers, which is a single green to get out for a 0/3 defender, and tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. Tap it and tap it. So tap 2 to get 1 mana of any color. So that's why no fixing. I've got a couple of Steeple Creepers, which can gain flying. Brush Strider. I've got some ways to deal with flying creatures. I've got Sargatar's Volley, which can wipe out waves of flyers, and I have Tower Defense to give something blocking. I got rid of my spiders, so I'm going to keep the Tower Defense. Actually, I have 1 spider. No, I've got 2 spiders. I didn't get rid of my spiders, I lied. 2 Fairy Duelists, a Benthic Biomaster, which lets me loot. Simic Ascendancy, that's probably never going to win me a game, but it'll let me put some counters out.
And it'll be fun.
A pair of Aeromunculuses, which are 2/3 flyers with a adapt. So, yeah. I think that's a decent, it's blue-green flyers with a bunch of ram. So, that's potential. And then my straight Orgeal deck is like removal, and hope that I get into the Seraph of the Scales, or some other really, I've got the Archway Angel in there. So yeah, some potential stuff there. So, I can do this deck.
I have over 6 every turn. The only thing I do is discard my hand and draw something else. I'm actually fine with that because that means you can trust me.
I think for this deck, the Orgeal deck, I want 8 plains and 9 swamps. And for my Simic deck, 8 islands and maybe 7 islands and forest. Okay, I'll be right back.
Okay. I think that's as good as those feathers are going to get at this point. I think if I do too much more with them, they're just going to look muddy. And I'm going to have to go over them. We're going to do a really bright blue on the feathers on the hat.
pleased with him. There we go. I'm actually really happy with him right now. All right, good luck, Jules. We will hopefully see you some other time. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend. I hope your pre-release goes well. I hope your grocery shopping goes well.
Definitely some fun cards.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm happy with the feathers.
Okay.
I'm happy with his hat for the most part. I'm happy with his outfit. I'm happy with the sword.
Yeah.
And I'm happy with the boots. I just did a little work on the boots. So at this point, he's going to dry, and I'll eventually do a wash on him. But for the most part, he's ready to sit and have some time by himself.
Four figures mostly done.
Pretty much done, yeah.
One figure with the base coat package done.
Yeah, her base coats are all done. So now it's time to play around with detail work on her.
I feel like I'm going to run out of time sleeving my deck. I've got so many cards. Because I've got 2 decks.
Do you want to hand sleeve it?
Do you ever sleeve up a whole pile of cards and your hand starts getting tired from opening sleeves?
Yes.
So after round 1,
Uh-huh.
how do you feel about ordering some lunch or something?
That sounds great. So I'm actually going to put a wash on her blade right now.
Okay.
Because her blade has a lot more going on than I had initially realized, and it's got a wood grain to it. So we're actually going to put a nice wash on that, because we're probably going to end up doing a couple of different washes on it.
I kind of wish I had more creatures with afterlife, because then when I destroy all creatures, I still have a board state.
Tried to put a flesh wash on him. Didn't like how it went. Washed it out. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be more careful on him. Yeah, I'm just fixing something. That's why I'm not terribly... I need the light where it is to see if I caught all the bits where the stuff pooled.
Alrighty. Sleeved up.
All right, well, that was not as successful as I wanted it to be. That's okay. The problem with this wash is that it's a little too concentrated. So, to be more careful with it. I know what I'm going to do.
Well, I am proud of myself. There are 40 cards in my deck.
Hooray!
In the wash a bit.
Means I have to drink all this water because I no longer have a cap. But that's fine.
I can finish my water and you can have my cap.
Thank you.
All right. I'm going to go downstairs and play some magic.
Okay.
Have fun painting.
Thank you. There we go. So that's a lot better. I watered down. And the flesh wash on her has done exactly what I wanted it to do, which was to warm up her skin tone a bit, because I was feeling like I had gone a little too cool with the paint, but I knew I would be going over her with the flesh wash, so I had been hoping that that would be enough to warm up her skin tone. And it totally did, so I'm really happy about that. I think it's still a little too concentrated to use for Ramirez, but that's okay. It's definitely good for Talia.
I'm just going to have to approximate it again the next time when I do her ancient figure. All right, have fun. I'm happy with her, yeah. Actually, that works out pretty well. He's going to sit for a bit. I have to do a mouth on him, don't I?
Pairing something just a second. This may seem like a strange question, but is there anybody who is going to drop and not playing round one? All right, good.
Okay. I am putting my other earbud back in now that Andy is downstairs. All right. Let's play with Kastigir. Let me find a good reference photo for Kastigir. Yes, I did mean that. That's too tiny a photo. That's much better. Wow, dude. You have a lot going on. That is some fabric. There's like stripes. There's a lot happening here. I want like a nice big photo. There are no really big photos. That's the best I'm gonna get. Alright, so Kastigir is wearing this cool, like, overrobe. Excuse me. I have bad news about this overrobe. It is ridiculously complex. There's a lot happening. I wish I had a better Highlander picture of him. Alas. Shows the back of it, and it's definitely got like, it's got stripes. This is almost a plaid. Goodness gracious. His outfit underneath is white, so that's fine. Because we're actually going to start with a pale gray and work up to white. Wow. Okay, cool. Let's do it. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten is to start at the bottom, which is you're going to start with the bottom layer of like clothing and skin. So if I was painting like a sweater over a shirt, I'd want to do the shirt first and then the sweater over it. So we're going to start with skin. A little bit of the white sleeve does show up underneath this, so we're going to paint that in after the fact. I'm gonna worry about his hairline after the fact, and that's a normal. That's like how I tend to feel a lot of the time. It's definitely how I did in Monfacile. That man definitely started out entirely flesh toned, and then I painted his blonde hair in over that. So we're gonna start out just like not worried about the details. The details being like hair and eyebrows, facial hair. He's got a beard. I'm not gonna worry about his beard right now. And we're gonna start out with a really pale gray. We're going to work our way up. White is annoying to work with because white isn't just white. Shadows look gray, but then doing a wash darkens everything too much. So
well, you have to tap it, right? Then in addition, you cannot use the tap to yourself. So you cannot tap them over. Not this one. If it was just the mana cost, yes. I would tap it.
Painting these definitely makes me want to rewatch the movie. Okay, yeah. The white collar of his like undergarment here is indeed visible on his back. almost like a putty. It's got like oranges, whites. It's almost got like purples. I don't like this as a base color. Not happy with that. We're gonna mix some purple into this and see what happens. That's much more the color I need.
No, trust me. Well, that's why I'm talking
Yeah. And the purple is adding to the opacity of it. So.
may take a break in a moment and go do something very necessary because I've had a large cup of tea today. I'm going to finish the first hood on his jacket here, basically. And then I will take a quick break before the round downstairs is over. Angles are hard.
Yeah. So one of the reasons I'm doing it above the palette is because otherwise I'm crossing over, because I find having my palette over here really annoying. I did land... Nope, wasn't him. I landed Ramirez right in some paint the other day. Fortunately, it's just the base. So. Welcome. I am painting the figures for the River Horse Highlander board game. Right now I'm working on Kastigir, who has the world's most annoying jacket. I thought Ramirez was annoying with all the peacock feathers, and then I actually looked up a reference picture for Kastigir. The, like, MacLeod tartan, Ramirez's peacock feathers, nothing compared to this. Because this is all stripes and like almost a plaid. It's a lot of like interwoven colors. It's oranges and like a putty brown and a sort of purpley color, which is why I'm going with this as a base color. This was mixed using lavender and like bone shadow. I wanted it to be a warm semi-purple. Because there's definitely an undertone of this color. It's a pretty good first coat. And I'm going to be layering so many other colors onto this. Alright, I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a moment. Hopefully. Okay, I just went under. I apologize for this. I will be right back.
Oh, taking a break. Okay.
Hi. I return. Took a much needed little break, and I'm gonna come back and start seeing what I can do with Kastigir's coat here. So Kastigir has this amazing, like, over robe going on that has so much color in it. It's like oranges and purples and off-white. It's absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of really clear photos of it. So I'm gonna have to wing it. So we're just gonna have to hope for the best. Yeah, it is. It's actually plaid. Yeah, it is. Take a look at this. Andy. Right? And look at the back of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna. No, it's woven into the fabric. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. But also, oh my god, like.
I mean, you did the plaid on the tartan already.
Yeah, but that's a tiny little piece of fabric in comparison to this. So, yeah. All right, let's get to it. Make a couple of different versions of the next color because I don't know how well it's going to work one way or the other. So we're going to try it with a dark purple, and then we're going to try it with a light purple and see which one comes out better. Not too bad. I think I need more of the brown though. Yeah. They're all these like muted purple and orange tones. And then little touches of white, of like off-white.
The thing is, there's so many little stripes in here.
Yeah. Kind of overwhelming.
Yep. So I'm starting with very broad stripes, and I'm spacing them out a fair amount because I'm going to add a lot of little detail in between.
set aside for pre-release events that are pre-registered.
Uh-huh.
In Norton, they have 4 packs of Azores.
That's it.
That's it.
Wow.
They had 56 people at the 1 p.m. It was a successful pre-release.
actually going to do the off-white first because I want the off-white before the other colors. I'm going to do the vertical stripes for the dark purple, but I want to do the off-white before I do much else because I want to I want it to just peek out. I don't want the off-white to be overwhelming to the other colors because it really isn't. It's not intended to be. Okay. So it's already starting to look a little plaid-like because of the way the paint goes on, and that color wasn't 100% opaque. So as you layer it, it darkens where it crosses, and then lightens up a little bit where it's just that one layer. And that was intentional. That was very much what I was hoping would happen when I did that. So I'm going to put one earbud in because I need something else going on in my ears than the noise from downstairs. Okay. Thank you. We're going to do some of the off-white next.
a little off camera there. but I'm laying groundwork for other stuff, so.
Always make them happy. Because they never do.
Hey, Andy.
I got the buy,
Oh,
and I have food.
lovely.
You want to take the stream down for a little while?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm going to stop for the day. Kastigir's coming out okay.
The progress that you've made. Oh yeah.
So I think I'm gonna stop the stream for the day. It's like 3:30 right now, and I've been doing this for a couple of hours. My eyes are starting to feel it, so I'm gonna call it a day, and I will continue with Kastigir and Talia next time, and finish up little tiny detail work on these guys. Though honestly, I think Ramirez is pretty much done. I'm real proud of him. So, yeah, he's done. We finished him today. We did some good work on Talia here. We got her skin tone done. We got some good base work on her weapon done, so we can work on that a little more later. We got base coats on all of her clothes, which is great. And we did a lot of work on Kastigir. I'm pretty pleased with how he's coming. So yeah, I think I'll call it a day. Thank you for watching and joining me, and I hope you have a great day too.